The cry in the darkness. The night was heavy and the air was cold. The small village slept under the cover of silence, but not everyone could rest. From the edge of the forest, near the broken stones of an old well, a strange sound rose. It was not the cry of a dog, not the call of an owl, not even the voice of a human. It was something different, something that shook the heart of anyone who heard it. A soft, broken cry echoed from deep inside the filthy well. It was a cry of pain, of fear, of loneliness. But most of all, it was a cry of someone asking for help. The villagers had heard it many times before. They locked their doors, shut their windows, and prayed in silence. "Do not listen, do not answer, or bad luck will fall upon your family," the elders always said. And so, night after night, the cry continued, but no one dared to go near. On this night, however, someone was passing by, a young man named Aaron, a traveler who had stopped in the village only that evening. He could not sleep in the small room given to him. The strange sound had reached his ears, and his heart refused to ignore it. At first, he thought it was an animal trapped. But the more he listened, the more human it felt. His chest grew tight and curiosity pulled him toward the forest path. Step by step, Aaron moved quietly under the pale moonlight. The trees whispered as the wind passed through their branches. The ground was wet from rain, and his boots sank into the mud. The closer he came to the old well, the stronger the cry became. It was weak, it was shaking, but it was real. Aaron stopped at the edge and looked down. Darkness swallowed everything below. Only the smell of rot and dirty water came up. Is anyone there?" Aaron whispered. For a moment there was no answer, only the sound of dripping water. Then, slowly, a faint voice came. "Help me, please, and help." Aaron's heart jumped. It was no animal, no ghost, no trick of the night. It was a voice, broken but alive. He wanted to call for the villagers, but then he remembered their closed doors and fearful faces. No one would come. No one would care. "Who are you?" Aaron asked, leaning closer to the well. There was silence, then the voice spoke again. I cannot tell. Please, just save me." The words were heavy with suffering, and Aaron felt a strange mix of fear and pity. He knew something was wrong, deeply wrong. Why would anyone be thrown into this place? And why did the villagers act as if it was cursed? Aaron tied the rope he carried around his waist to a tree nearby. He had always carried rope for his travels, never knowing it would one day pull him toward such danger. With steady breath, he lowered himself slowly into the darkness. The air grew colder and the stench grew stronger. Finally, his boots touched the wet stones at the bottom. He raised his lantern and the light fell on a figure. What he saw froze. His breath. It was a woman, but not like any woman he had ever seen. Her skin was pale with a faint glow. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, shining faintly in the dark. Her clothes were torn, her body covered in mud and bruises. She was trembling, weak, almost unable to stand. Yet her face carried a beauty, so strange, so unearthly that Aaron could not look away. The woman's lips moved and she whispered, "They left me here. They want me to die." Aaron felt his chest tighten. Who did this to you?" Her eyes filled with tears and she shook her head. "The ones I trusted." Before he could ask more, her legs gave way, and she collapsed against the stones. Aaron caught her quickly, feeling how light and fragile she was. She looked at him with pleading eyes. "You are the first to listen," she said, her voice breaking. Above them, the wind carried a sound. Footsteps, heavy and fast, crushing the leaves on the forest floor. Someone was coming. Maybe more than one. Aaron's blood ran cold. He had no time. If they saw him with her, if they learned he had answered the forbidden cry, he would be punished as well. He pulled the rope tight, looking at the strange woman who now clung weakly to him. Her eyes begged for life, begged for escape. Aaron whispered to himself, "I cannot leave her here." The footsteps grew louder. The light of torches flickered above. The villagers were near, their voices rough with anger. Check the well, make sure she is still inside, one of them said. Aaron's heart raced. Sweat dripped down his face. He had only seconds to choose: stay hidden in the darkness with her, or climb out and face the danger. The woman gripped his arm tightly, her trembling voice echoing, "Please, do not leave me." And in that moment, Aaron knew his life would never be the same again. Aaron held the strange woman in his arms. Her body was cold, her breath soft, but her eyes still begged for life. Above, the sound of footsteps and angry voices grew louder. The villagers had come, torches in their hands, fear and hate burning. In their hearts, Aaron looked up, his lantern shaking in his grip. If they looked down and saw him, his fate would be sealed. They would not forgive him. They would not spare him. To them, anyone who touched the woman was cursed forever. "Stay quiet," Aaron whispered to her, pressing her close against the damp stones. She nodded weakly, her silver eyes reflecting the dim light. The voices above reached the edge of the well. "Is she still there?" one villager growled. Another leaned over, shining his torch down. Aaron held his breath, pressing himself deeper into the shadows. The woman closed her eyes tightly, as if willing herself to disappear. The man squinted, then pulled back. "She is still in the darkness," he said. "Good. Let her rot," another replied, spitting into the well. Their footsteps faded as they moved away, the glow of the torches disappearing into the trees. The night grew quiet once more, except for the sound of Aaron's racing heart. He waited until he was sure they were gone. Then he looked back at the woman. "Who are you?" he whispered. Her lips trembled. "I am not from here," she said softly. Her voice was weak, but the words carried a weight that made Aaron shiver. He studied her face more closely, and the truth struck him. Her skin glowed faintly even. In the dark, her eyes were not like human eyes. She was not of this world, not of this village, not of this earth. Aaron felt fear crawl through his veins, but also wonder. An alien, trapped in a filthy well, abandoned by those she trusted. "How did you end up here?" he asked. Her tears mixed with the mud on her cheeks. "I trusted them," she said. "I came with hope. I thought they would welcome me. But they feared me. They hated me. They pushed me into this place." Her voice broke, and she clutched his sleeve with shaking hands. "They want me to die here, alone." Aaron's chest ached. Every instinct told him to run, to escape this cursed fate before it swallowed him too. But the sound of her cry, the pain in her eyes, chained him where he stood. "No," he whispered firmly. "I will not leave you here." Her eyes widened as if she could not believe his words. You would help me?" she asked. Aaron nodded. "I cannot walk away, not after hearing your voice." He tightened the rope around his waist and pulled her close. Step by step, with all his strength, he began to climb. The stones were slippery. The rope cut into his hands. The woman clung to him, too weak to help, but whispering, "Please don't let go." Halfway up, the rope jerked and groaned. Aaron froze, sweat dripping from his forehead. If it snapped, they would both fall into the dark water below. His muscles burned, but he gritted his teeth and climbed again. At last, his hands touched the edge, and, with one final effort, he pulled them both out onto the muddy ground. The woman gasped for air, lying on the cold earth. The moonlight touched her face, and for the first time Aaron saw her clearly. Even covered in dirt and bruises, she looked otherworldly. Her eyes glimmered like liquid silver. Her skin carried a soft glow like starlight. No wonder the villagers feared her. She was not human, and yet she was alive, fragile and desperate. Aaron gave her water from his flask, and she drank with shaking hands. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. "Why did you save me?" He thought for a moment, then said, "Because no one else would." She looked at him, tears in her strange eyes. "You are different," she whispered. "The others only saw a monster." Aaron shook his head. "I see someone who was left to die." But before they could say more, Aaron's ears caught a sound that chilled him, the snap of a branch, the crunch of leaves. He turned quickly and saw shadows moving between the trees. The villagers were returning, their torches glowing like hungry fire. They had not gone far. They were searching. They must not find me, the woman whispered, her voice trembling. Aaron pulled her up, though she could barely stand. Come, we must hide, he said firmly. He guided her through the trees deeper into the forest. Every step was a struggle, every sound of pursuit closer and louder. The woman stumbled, but Aaron refused to let her fall. Stay with me, he urged. Behind them the voices grew sharper. Find her, she cannot escape. The flames of torches flickered against the darkness, growing nearer. At last, Aaron saw an old barn at the edge of the fields, half broken, forgotten by time. He pulled the woman inside, laying her gently on a pile of straw. Her breath was shallow, her body weak, but her eyes never left his. Why risk your life for me? She asked again. Aaron looked at her in silence, then finally whispered, Because I believe you don't deserve to die in a well. The woman smiled faintly, her tears shining in the moonlight. But before the moment could last, heavy footsteps stopped just outside the barn. The sound of torches crackled and a rough voice shouted, Check inside, I saw someone move. Aaron's blood froze, his hand reaching for the lantern. The barn doors creaked as they began to open, and in that instant, Aaron knew the secret he had uncovered would cost him everything. The barn doors shook under the push of heavy hands. The old wood creaked, and dust fell from the beams above. Aaron stood in the shadows, his breath sharp, his heart racing. Beside him, the alien woman lay weak on the straw, her glowing eyes wide with fear. Stay quiet, Aaron whispered. Pressing a finger to his lips, the woman nodded, trembling as the voices outside grew louder. I saw a movement, open it, one villager barked, another growled. If she is inside, we finish it tonight. Aaron's mind raced. He could not fight the entire village, and the woman was too weak to run. His eyes darted around the barn, searching for a way out. In the corner, half hidden by old hay, was a broken back door. It hung loose on its hinges, opening into the dark fields beyond. The main doors cracked open, torchlight spilling into the barn, shadows stretched across the floor, inching closer. Aaron moved quickly, lifting the woman into his arms. She gasped softly but held tight to his neck. With silent steps, he carried her to the back, his boots sinking into the straw. The wooden door creaked as he pushed it open. The sound was small, but the villagers turned. What was that? One shouted. Aaron's blood froze, but he did not stop. He slipped into the night, the woman clinging to him. The cold air hit his face as he ran into the open field. Behind them, angry voices roared, They're escaping! After them! Torches flared. Boots pounded the ground. The chase had begun. Aaron ran faster than he ever had in his life. The woman's faint glow lit the path in front of him, but it also betrayed them. Over there, I see the light, a villager cried. Aaron cursed under his breath and pulled her cloak tighter around her body, trying to hide her shine. The fields seemed endless, the grass whipping against his legs. The woman whispered weakly, Leave me, save yourself. Aaron shook his head fiercely. Never. I will not abandon you. The forest loomed ahead, black and deep. Aaron pushed forward, entering the trees, their branches closing around them like a shield. The torches flickered behind. Spreading light through the dark woods, the villagers shouted, their voices echoing through the night. Don't let them escape, search every corner. Aaron stumbled over roots, his chest burning, but he forced himself to keep going. The woman held on, her voice soft in his ear. You risk everything for me, why? Because I heard your cry, Aaron panted, and I could not turn away. At last, his legs gave in, and he sank to the ground, hiding behind a fallen log. He laid the woman down gently, covering her with branches and leaves. Her silver eyes glowed faintly, but he placed his cloak over her, dimming the light. The villagers' torches moved closer, their dogs barking, sniffing the ground. Aaron pressed himself low, his heart pounding, so loud he thought it would betray them. The dogs drew nearer, their growls sharp. A man's voice shouted, They are close, I can feel it. Aaron reached for a stone, his hand shaking. He threw it far into the woods. The sound snapping branches. The dogs barked and ran in that direction, dragging the villagers with them. The light of the torches faded as they followed. Aaron let out a shaky breath, pulling the woman close again. "We are safe. For now," he whispered, though his voice carried no certainty. The woman looked at him with tired eyes. "You could have left me, but you did not," she said softly. Aaron brushed the dirt from her face. "No one deserves to die alone in a hole." Her lips trembled, and tears slid down her glowing cheeks. "You are the only one who answered, the only one who believed, but safety was only a dream." The villagers would not stop, not until she was found and destroyed. Aaron knew this, and the weight of his choice pressed heavy on his shoulders. He had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. If they caught him now, he would share her fate. The night dragged on, filled with shouts and searching lights. Aaron guided her deeper into the forest, every step slower, every breath harder. At last, through the shadows, he saw something strange. Half buried in the earth, covered with moss and vines, was a broken shape of metal. It was round, sharp-edged, and glowing faintly under the moon. Aaron froze, his eyes wide. The woman's gaze followed his, and her lips parted. "My ship," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It is here." Aaron stared at her, the truth finally heavy in his chest. She was no lost traveler, no cursed stranger. She was something far greater, far more dangerous. An alien, hiding in the forest, hunted by humans who feared her. And now, standing before the remains of her ship, Aaron realized he had uncovered a secret far bigger than his own life. Behind them, the sound of villagers grew louder again. The torches glowed brighter, cutting through the trees. Aaron gripped her arm, pulling her toward the broken ship. "Can it still work?" he asked. Her silver eyes met his, and for the first time they burned with hope. "Maybe," she whispered, "but only if we survive the night." The villagers' shouts echoed through the forest. The glow of fire moved closer, and in the shadows of the broken ship, Aaron understood their real escape was only about to begin. The forest held its breath. The broken ship stood like a silent giant, half buried in dirt and moss. Aaron pressed his back against the cold metal, his lantern dimmed, his heart racing. Beside him, the alien woman leaned weakly, her glowing eyes soft but restless. "They are close," she whispered, her voice trembling. Aaron nodded, listening to the villagers' shouts echoing through the trees. The glow of torches moved like fireflies in the distance, spreading wider and wider. "They will search everywhere," Aaron muttered. "We cannot stay here." The woman touched the side of the broken ship, her fingers brushing the strange markings carved into the metal. "This was my home," she said softly, "but now it is only a grave." Her voice cracked, and tears glimmered in her silver eyes. Aaron felt a pang in his chest. He wanted to give her comfort, but words felt too small. Instead, he tightened his cloak around her shoulders. "We will find another way," he said firmly. The villagers grew louder, their dogs barking as they sniffed the ground. Aaron knew he had little time. He pulled the woman to her feet, guiding her deeper into the woods. Her legs shook with every step, but she clung to his arm, trusting his strength more than her own. At last they stumbled upon an old stone path, broken and forgotten, leading toward the far edge of the forest. "There is an abandoned barn beyond these trees," Aaron whispered, remembering the place he had seen earlier on his travels. The woman looked at him, exhaustion heavy on her face. "Will we be safe there?" Aaron hesitated, then nodded. Though in truth he did not know, but it was their only chance. They moved as quickly as their bodies allowed, hiding behind trees when the light of torches drew near. Finally, after what felt like endless hours, they reached the barn. Its roof sagged, its doors cracked, and weeds grew thick around it. But to Aaron it was a shield, a place where eyes would not look. He pushed the doors open gently and helped her inside. The air was thick with dust and the wooden beams groaned with age. But inside there was straw, dry wood, and shadows deep enough to hide. Aaron laid her down carefully on a pile of hay, her body trembling with weakness. She closed her eyes, breathing slowly. "Rest," Aaron whispered. "I will keep watch." For a while, silence filled the barn. Only the sound of distant shouts reminded them of the danger still hunting them. Aaron sat near her, his lantern dimmed, his eyes sharp on the cracks of the door. But his thoughts wandered back to her words. She was not from here, not from this world. And yet, she was just as fragile as any human, just as desperate for kindness. When she opened her eyes again, the woman looked at him. "You should not have saved me," she whispered. "They will hate you now just as they hate me." Aaron shook his head, his jaw set. "I could not let you die." Her silver eyes shimmered and she whispered, "You risk everything for a stranger." Aaron leaned closer, his voice steady. "You are not a stranger anymore." Her lips trembled, and she whispered, "My name is Lyra." Aaron repeated it softly. Lyra. The name felt strange on his tongue, but it carried warmth. For the first time since he met her, Lyra smiled faintly. "You are different from them," she said. "You see me as I am, not as a curse." Aaron looked into her glowing eyes and answered, "I see someone worth saving." But peace never lasted long. Through the cracks of the barn wall, Aaron saw the flicker of torches again. The villagers were spreading through the fields, their search widening. Their voices carried through the night, rough and angry. "She cannot go far. Search every barn, every cave, every shadow." Lyra sat up, fear rushing back into her eyes. "They will find me," she whispered. Aaron grabbed her hand. "Not if I can stop them." He rose to his feet, his mind racing. He had no weapon, no plan, only determination. The footsteps grew closer, boots crushing grass, dogs barking furiously. Aaron blew out the lantern and crouched low, pulling Lyra with him behind a wall of straw. The barn door creaked as the wind pushed against it. Outside, a voice shouted, "Check inside," another replied. "Yes, leave no place unseen." Lyra's body shook as she pressed herself against Aaron. Her whisper was barely a breath. "If they catch us, they will kill you too." Aaron squeezed her hand tightly. "Then we will not be caught." The barn door groaned as it began to open. Light spilled inside. Shadows danced across the wooden floor. Aaron's heart thundered in his chest, every muscle tense. He held Lyra close, his eyes fixed on the doorway. If the villagers stepped inside, there would be no escape. The door swung wider, and the glow of torches lit the dusty air. Aaron prepared himself, his breath sharp. The sound of footsteps entered the barn, slow and heavy. The villagers had come inside. The barn was heavy with silence. Only the sound of boots on the wooden floor broke the stillness. 2 villagers stepped inside, their torches glowing, their faces hard with suspicion. Aaron held Lyra close behind a wall of straw, his breath tight, his heart pounding in his chest. The men's voices cut through the dark. "Search carefully. She could be hiding anywhere," one said. The other kicked at the hay with his boot, sending dust into the air. Lyra trembled, her silver eyes wide, her body frozen like a hunted bird. Aaron whispered softly, "Stay still." His lips close to her ear. The torchlight drew closer, shadows bending and twisting across the barn. Aaron's hand closed around a rusty pitchfork lying in the straw. It was no real weapon, but it was all he had. The men's footsteps grew louder, until they stopped only a few feet away. The torchlight fell on the pile of straw where Aaron and Lyra hid. Aaron's grip tightened, ready to strike if they pulled the straw away. But before the moment broke, another voice called from outside. "Leave it. She's not here. We'll check the old mill instead." The men grumbled, then turned, their boots thudding as they walked out. The barn door creaked shut behind them, and the sound of torches faded into the distance. Aaron let out a shaky breath, his body collapsing against the wall. Lyra clutched his arm, her voice weak but steady. "You risked your life again." Aaron shook his head, his jaw set. "I would do it every time." For a long moment, silence filled the barn once more. Then Lyra turned her face toward him, her silver eyes reflecting the faint moonlight. "You..." Deserve to know the truth, she whispered. Aaron frowned. What truth? She sat up slowly, her body still weak, but her voice carried a strange strength. I am not from this world, Aaron. I came from the stars. From a place far beyond your skies. Aaron stared at her, his heart racing, though he had already suspected. To your people I am a monster, a curse, but in truth, I'm only a traveler. Her trembling hands glowed faintly as she lifted them. A soft light spread from her palms, wrapping the dark barn in a silver glow. Aaron's eyes widened, his breath caught. Her light was not fire, not torch, not anything human. It was warm, gentle, and alive. This is my gift, Lyra said softly. I can heal. I can give life where there is pain. But your people saw only danger. Aaron touched the glow, and his skin tingled, the ache in his tired muscles. Fading away, he stared at her in wonder. You can heal? Lyra nodded, though tears slid down her cheeks. Yes, but when I showed them, they thought it was witchcraft. They feared me, and they threw me into the well. Aaron's heart ached with anger. They betrayed you, he whispered. Lyra lowered, her eyes. I wanted to trust them, I wanted to live among them, but fear is stronger than kindness. Her voice cracked, and Aaron gently lifted her chin. Not stronger than all kindness, not stronger than mine. Her silver eyes filled with tears again, but this time they shone with hope. You are the first to believe me, she said, her voice breaking. Aaron held her hand. And I will not. Stop. But outside the sound of villagers rose again. They had not given up, and now their voices carried fury. She cannot be allowed to live. She will bring disaster upon us all. One shouted. Find the stranger who hides her. He will burn with her. Another growled. Lyra flinched, her hand gripping Aaron's tightly. They mean you, she whispered, fear flooding her voice. Aaron's eyes darkened. Then I will protect you, no matter the cost. Suddenly, the barn wall glowed faintly with Lyra's light. Aaron turned sharply. Dim it. They will see. But Lyra shook her head. I cannot hide it anymore. This is who I am. Her glow spread, filling the barn with silver warmth, pushing back the shadows. And at that moment, the barn door burst open. The villagers stood in the doorway, their torches blazing, their faces twisted with rage. They saw her light. They saw Aaron standing beside her, and their voices erupted in anger. There she is, one shouted, and the traitor with her. Another raised his torch. Burn them both. Lyra's glow flickered as fear shook her body. Aaron stepped in front of her, holding the rusty pitchfork like a sword. You will not touch her, he growled, his voice filled with fire. The villagers advanced, their torches lighting the barn like a storm. Lyra's hand clutched Aaron's shoulder, her voice trembling but strong. If I use my gift, they will see everything, she whispered. Aaron glanced at her, his eyes steady. Then let them see the truth. The villagers roared, rushing forward. And in that moment, Lyra lifted her, hands, the silver light exploding from her palms. The barn shook with a glow brighter than fire, brighter than torches. The villagers froze in shock, their anger silenced by the sight before them. And as the light filled every shadow, the truth of Lyra was revealed. The silver light exploded through the barn. For a moment, everything froze. The villagers shielded their eyes, their torches dim before the glow. Aaron stood in front of Lyra, gripping the rusty pitchfork, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Lyra's hands trembled, the light streaming from her palms like living fire. When the glow faded, silence filled the barn. The villagers stared at her with wide eyes, fear burning in their faces. She is a demon, one shouted, his voice breaking the silence. Kill her before her curse spreads, another cried. Their voices turned into a roar, and the crowd surged forward. Run, Aaron whispered, pulling Lyra toward the back door. She stumbled, her body weak but her spirit strong. They burst out into the cold night air, the torches flashing behind them. After them, the villagers screamed, their boots pounding against the earth. Aaron dragged Lyra through the tall grass, his lungs burning. The night was alive with noise, angry shouts, barking dogs, the crackle of fire. Lyra clung to him, whispering, "You should leave me, they will not stop." Aaron shook his head fiercely. "I will never leave you." The forest swallowed them again, its shadows deep and thick. Branches whipped against Aaron's face as he pushed forward. The torches followed, spreading like fire through the trees. The villagers' fury was stronger than fear. They would chase until their prey was caught. Aaron guided Lyra toward the river, its rushing water echoing in the night. "If we cross, the dogs may lose our trail," he said. Lyra's legs trembled, her body near collapse, but she nodded. Together they waded into the icy water, the current pulling at their clothes. The cold bit into Aaron's bones. But he held Lyra tightly, refusing to let the river take her. Behind them, the glow of torches reached the riverbank. "They went this way," a voice shouted. Aaron pushed forward, the water rising to his chest. "Hold on," he told her, his voice steady despite the fear inside. Lyra pressed her face against his shoulder, whispering, "I trust you." At last, they reached the far bank, crawling onto the muddy ground. Aaron helped her to her feet, guiding her into the thick brush. The villagers' voices were muffled by the roar of the river, but they were not far behind. Aaron knew they had little time. They stumbled through the woods, every step heavier than the last. Aaron's legs ached. His body screamed for rest, but he kept moving. Lyra's voice broke the silence, soft but clear. "When I first came, I thought your people would welcome me." Her silver eyes filled with sadness. "I wanted to share my gift, to heal, to bring hope." Aaron's jaw tightened. "And they answered with hate." Lyra nodded, her tears glimmering in the moonlight. "Yes, but you answered with kindness." Her words gave him strength. He pulled her close, whispering, "Then we will keep running, until we find a place where kindness is stronger than fear." Suddenly, the sound of dogs broke through the night again. Their howls cut the silence, growing closer. The villagers had crossed the river, their torches burning in the distance. Lyra gasped, fear tightening her voice. "They will not stop." Aaron gritted his teeth. "Then neither will I." They pushed deeper into the forest, the trees thickening. Around them the ground grew rough, the path broken, but Aaron did not slow. At last they stumbled into a clearing, and there, half hidden under vines and shadows, stood the broken ship once more. Its metal glimmered faintly in the moonlight. A ghost of another world. Lyra fell to her knees, her hand touching the cold surface, her eyes filled with both sorrow and hope. "This was my home," she whispered. "If I can reach the heart of it, maybe it can still save us." Aaron crouched beside her, his voice sharp. "Can you repair it?" Lyra shook her head. "Not repair, but awaken." Before they could move, the forest erupted with light. The villagers poured into the clearing, their torches blazing, their eyes wild with rage. "There they are," a voice shouted. "End it now." The crowd surged forward, the dogs barking. Furiously, Aaron pulled Lyra to her feet, pressing her hand against the ship. "Do it, whatever you must," he urged. Lyra's silver eyes glowed, her palms pressed against the metal. The ship hummed faintly, a deep sound rising from within. The ground trembled under their feet. The villagers froze for a moment, fear flashing in their eyes. But then anger returned, stronger than fear. "Burn it," someone shouted. "Burn everything." They charged, torches high, their voices a storm of hate. Lyra's light spread into the ship, the hum growing louder. Aaron stood in front of her, holding a fallen branch like a sword, his body ready though. He knew he could not win. The villagers closed in, their torches inches away. The ship glowed brighter, a pulse of energy spreading outward. The villagers stopped, their faces pale in the sudden light. The ground shook harder, the air filled with a strange vibration. Lyra gasped, her voice trembling. "It is waking." Aaron tightened his grip on the branch, his eyes locked on the advancing crowd. "Then let it wake before they destroy us," he said. The villagers roared, charging forward again. The ship's light burst upward, slicing the night sky with silver fire. The clearing shook, trees bending under the force, and in the chaos of light and fury, the chase of fear reached its breaking point. The forest clearing burned with silver light. The broken ship pulsed like a beating heart, its glow spreading through the trees. Villagers shielded their faces, their torches dim before the power rising from the ground. Aaron stood tall, gripping a branch like a weapon, his body between Lyra and the crowd. Lyra pressed her glowing hands against the ship, her breath ragged, her body trembling. "The core is alive," she whispered, her voice filled with both fear and hope. The hum grew louder, shaking the earth, sending ripples through the night air. The villagers cried out, "Stop her, destroy it before it takes us all." They rushed forward, their fury stronger than their fear. Aaron stepped into their path, shouting, "Stay back!" The crowd hesitated, but only for a moment. One man swung his torch at Aaron, the flames searing the air. Aaron blocked with his branch, the wood snapping under the force. Pain shot through his arm, but he did not fall. Behind him, Lyra's light spread into the ship's walls. Symbols carved into the metal began to glow, lines of fire racing across its surface. Her voice trembled. "It is waking, but I need more time." Aaron's chest heaved, his eyes burning with determination. "Then I will give it to you." The villagers circled, their eyes wild, their shouts echoing. "Traitor!" They spat at Aran. "You stand with her, you will die with her." But Aran did not waver. His voice thundered, "I stand with what is right." The ground shook harder, the ship's glow rising higher. A pillar of light burst upward, slicing the night sky. The villagers fell back in terror, their courage breaking for the first time. Some dropped their torches and fled into the trees, but many still remained, their fear twisted into hate. Aaron turned to Lyra, her face pale, sweat dripping down her brow. "You cannot hold it alone," he said, his voice fierce. Lyra's eyes lifted to his, glowing with silver fire. "There is a way," she whispered, "but it will change everything." Her hand reached toward him, trembling. "If you join with me, if you give me your strength, I can finish this, I can make the ship rise." Aaron stared at her, the weight of her words pressing on his chest. "If I do this, what happens to me?" he asked. Her tears glimmered in the silver light. "You may never return. You may leave this world behind forever." The villagers' shouts grew louder, their torches rising again. Aaron's heart pounded, torn between two worlds, his own people and the alien woman he had chosen to protect. He looked at Lyra, fragile yet fierce, hunted yet full of hope. "You are the only one who listened," she whispered, "the only one who believed." Her hand hovered near his, waiting, trembling. Behind them, the ship roared with power, demanding a choice. Aaron's breath shook as he lifted his hand. The villagers cried out, "No! Do not touch her!" But their voices were drowned by the hum of the ship. Aaron placed his hand over hers, their fingers locking together. A surge of energy shot through him, fire and light burning his veins. He cried out, his body trembling, but he did not pull away. Lyra's eyes widened, glowing brighter. "You chose me," she whispered. Their light merged, silver and human strength entwined. The ship shuddered, its broken walls shifting, rising, alive once more. The ground split, the trees bent under the force of its awakening. The villagers screamed, their torches falling, their courage shattering. "Run!" they shouted, fleeing into the forest like shadows before a storm. But Aaron and Lyra stood in the heart of the glow, their hands locked, their voices silent. The ship lifted from the ground, metal groaning, vines tearing free. Dust and earth flew into the air as its great frame rose into the sky. The clearing shook. The world itself seemed to tremble. Aaron's body weakened under the power, his legs almost giving way. Lyra held him tighter, her voice soft but fierce. "Do not let go. We are almost free." Aaron gritted his teeth, the light burning his eyes. "I will not let go." The ship rose higher, the forest shrinking below. The villagers vanished into the shadows, their cries lost in the distance. The stars opened above, endless and vast. Lyra looked at Aaron, her silver eyes shining. "Now you must decide," she whispered. "Do you stay with them or come with me?" The light wrapped around them, pulling them toward the heart of the ship. Aaron's breath shook, his heart torn. To stay meant safety, but it also meant leaving her to face the stars alone, To go meant abandoning everything he had ever known. The hum of the ship grew louder, the choice pressing down like a storm. Lyra's hand gripped his tightly, her voice breaking. Whatever you choose, know this. You are the only one who saved me. Her tears glimmered like silver rain as the ship roared. Aaron closed his eyes, his soul burning with the weight of his decision. The ship burst through the clouds, its light vanishing into the endless night. And on the ground below, no one ever knew who remained inside.